The quantum sensors aboard the ESS Hawking chirped their familiar song as Dr. Elena Santos adjusted the detection parameters for the 7th time that day. 3 years of scanning the void between the Sagittarius and Carina arms of the galaxy had yielded nothing but false positives and equipment malfunctions. Yet something in the data patterns nagged at her consciousness, like a shadow glimpsed from the corner of one's eye. Another calibration. Captain Marcus Chen's voice carried a hint of weary amusement as he floated through the sensor lab's doorway. The ship's artificial gravity had been disabled to conserve power during their long-duration mission. Elena didn't look up from her console. The quantum fluctuations are getting stronger, Marcus. And they're not random. There's a pattern here I just can't quite. Her voice trailed off as new data streamed across her holographic display. The captain recognized her expression. The same look she'd worn when she'd first theorized that quantum entanglement could be used to detect ships in hyperspace. "There," she whispered, fingers dancing across the interface. "Look at this harmonic sequence. It's like ripples in space-time, but they're propagating faster than light." Before Marcus could respond, the ship's AI cut in. Unknown vessel detected, emerging from hyperspace in Sector 7. The massive ship that appeared before them defied conventional physics. Its hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, covered in geometric patterns that hurt the eyes to look at directly. It was easily 20 times the size of their research vessel. "First contact," Marcus breathed. "Alert Earth Command, and begin first contact protocols." But Elena was shaking her head, her dark eyes wide with concern. "Captain, those quantum ripples I detected, they're not coming from that ship. They're coming from something else, something much bigger, moving through the space between galaxies." The alien vessel's communication arrived as a burst of structured data that the ship's AI quickly translated. "Greetings, representatives of Earth. We are the collective of advanced species, and we've come to evaluate your civilization for potential membership." What followed was a whirlwind of diplomatic exchanges. The collective, it turned out, was an ancient alliance of spacefaring races that had governed the galaxy for millennia. They were impressed by humanity's rapid technological advancement, but viewed Earth as a young, primitive civilization, still finding its footing among the stars. When Elena presented her findings about the quantum disturbances to the collective's Science Council, their dismissal was immediate and absolute. "Your detection methods are crude and unreliable," declared High Counselor Zixtal, their crystalline form glittering with what Elena interpreted as disdain. "We have monitored this galaxy for 10,000 years. If there was something approaching from intergalactic space, we would know. But the data clearly shows." Elena began. "Your species barely understands quantum mechanics," another counselor interrupted. "You still use biological neural networks for computation. For void's sake, leave the serious science to those with the experience to properly interpret it." Captain Chen watched Elena's face carefully during the exchange. He'd known her long enough to recognize when she was absolutely certain about something. And right now, every line of her body radiated conviction. The meeting ended with the collective patting themselves on the back for their magnanimous offer to guide humanity's development. They promised to share some of their basic technology, carefully regulated, of course, while humanity proved itself worthy of full membership. Back aboard the Hawking, Elena was already running new scans. "They're wrong, Marcus. Whatever's out there, it's big enough to cast quantum shadows across hundreds of light years. And it's getting closer." "I believe you," he said simply, "but they're not going to listen to us. Not yet." Elena's laugh held no humor. "No, they won't. So we'll do what humanity does best. Prepare for the worst and hope we're wrong." She pulled up a new analysis window. "Look at these energy signatures. Whatever's coming, it's like nothing we've ever seen. But maybe that's our advantage. The collective is so convinced they know everything. They've stopped looking for new answers. But we're still asking questions." "How long?" Marcus asked. "Based on these readings, 5 years, maybe 6. Time enough to prepare, If we start now. Marcus nodded slowly. I'll contact Earth Command. We'll need to be subtle about this. If the collective realizes we're building up our defenses, they might decide we're too unstable for contact at all. They think we're primitive, Alina said, her fingers never stopping their dance across the holographic controls. Let them. While they're busy being superior, we'll be getting ready. Because whatever's coming isn't going to care how advanced they think they are. The quantum sensors continued their song as the ESS Hawking turned for home, carrying with it both humanity's first contact with alien life and a warning that no one else would heed. In the vast darkness between the galaxies, something stirred, its movement sending ripples through the quantum fabric of space-time, ripples that only human sensors, crude but innovative, could detect. Earth would have to prepare alone. But then, humanity had always done its best work when backed into a corner. 5 years passed like water through cupped hands. On the surface, Earth played its role perfectly, the eager primitive species gratefully accepting the collective's carefully measured guidance. Behind closed doors, however, humanity prepared for war. The quantum detection grid that Dr. Alina Santos had designed now spanned the entire solar system, hidden within seemingly primitive satellite networks that the collective's observers dismissed as quaint attempts at space surveillance. Every new piece of basic technology the collective shared was dissected, reversed engineered, and improved upon in secret facilities buried deep beneath the Earth's oceans and moon's surface. Alina stood in the heart of Project Oracle, a vast underground complex beneath the Mariana Trench, watching as holographic displays showed the approaching quantum disturbance. It's accelerating, she announced to the assembled military and scientific leadership. Whatever it is, it's noticed the collective's worlds. Admiral Sarah Chen, Marcus's sister and now head of Earth's Defense Force, studied the projections. How long until it reaches collective space? 3 months, maybe less. Alina manipulated the display, highlighting a cluster of worlds. These systems will be hit first, the collective's most advanced core worlds. And they still haven't detected anything. General Rodriguez asked, his weathered face creased with concern. Alina shook her head. They're looking for conventional threats, ships, energy signatures, radiation. This entity, it exists partially outside our normal spacetime. The only reason we can see it at all is because we were looking for quantum disruptions rather than traditional signals. The room fell silent as new data streamed in. The quantum disturbance had split into multiple signatures, each heading toward a different collective world. Whatever was coming, it was coordinated. The collective's latest technology share is scheduled for next week, Sarah noted. We should attend, maintain appearances. They might let something slip about their defensive capabilities. The technology share took place on Alpha Centauri, humanity's first colony world. The collective representatives arrived in their gleaming ships, ready to dispense their wisdom to their primitive prodigies. Alina watched them with new eyes now, seeing not their supposed superiority but their dangerous complacency. High Counselor Zixtal was mid-lecture about the basic principles of quantum communication when the first emergency signal came through. The crystalline being's form flickered with confusion as their aides rushed to deliver the news. Impossible, Zixtal whispered, their crystalline structure dimming. Nexus Prime has gone dark. All communication ceased. More signals followed. One by one, the collective's most advanced worlds fell silent. The quantum disruptions Alina had tracked for years were now manifesting as something far more terrifying. An enemy that could shut down entire planetary civilizations without firing a shot. The collective's response was chaos. Their mighty fleets, spread thin across the galaxy, rushed to defend their core worlds. But they were fighting an enemy they couldn't see or understand, one that operated on principles their advanced technology couldn't detect. Alina and Sarah exchanged glances as they watched the collective representatives panic. Humanity had spent 5 years preparing for this moment, developing weapons and defenses based on the quantum principles that the collective had dismissed as primitive theory. We should tell them, Alina murmured to Sarah. Show them what we've built." Sarah shook her head slightly. "Not yet. Let them see the full extent of their mistake first. When they're ready to listen, really listen, then we'll show them what humanity can do." The next month brought more disasters. The entity or entities moved through collective space like a scythe through wheat. Their most advanced defensive systems proved useless against an enemy that could manipulate the quantum fabric of reality itself. Worlds that had stood for thousands of years fell in hours. In Project Oracle, humanity watched and continued to prepare. The quantum detection grid had given them crucial data about how the enemy operated. Alina's team worked around the clock, refining their theories and adjusting their defensive strategies. "Look at these patterns," she explained to Sarah late one night, pointing to complex quantum signatures. "They're not just destroying worlds, they're consuming them, converting all matter and energy into something else, something that exists in a quantum state we barely understand." "Can we stop them?" Sarah asked the question that haunted them all. Alina's tired face showed a glimmer of hope. "Maybe. We've got something they won't expect." While the collective built bigger ships and stronger shields, we looked for answers in the spaces between conventional physics. "We don't need to match their power. We just need to disrupt their quantum state long enough to." She was interrupted by an urgent alert. The quantum signatures had changed direction. The enemy, having consumed the collective's strongest worlds, was now moving toward their more distant colonies. Soon, they would reach Earth's sector. "It's time," Sarah decided, reaching for her communicator. "Send word to the collective. Tell them." She paused, a grim smile crossing her face. "Tell them humanity is ready to help, if they're ready to listen." In the space above Alpha Centauri, the remaining collective ships gathered, their proud leaders finally forced to confront the possibility that they had made a terrible mistake. As they debated their next move, Earth's quantum detection grid silently tracked the approaching doom, counting down the hours until humanity would have to prove whether 5 years of preparation had been enough. The emergency council chamber on Alpha Centauri had never been designed to hold so many species at once. Representatives from 30 surviving collective worlds crowded the space, their fear palpable in a dozen different atmospheric mixtures. High Counselor Zixtal's crystalline form had dulled to an almost opaque gray, a sign of extreme distress in their species. Dr. Alina Santos stood at the center of the chamber, her holographic presentation showing the quantum wake of destruction spreading across what had once been the collective's most secure territory. The room fell silent as she spoke. "What you're facing isn't just an enemy. It's an entirely new form of life," she explained, manipulating the display to show complex quantum signatures. "We call them quantum predators. They exist primarily in a state of quantum superposition, which is why your conventional sensors can't detect them. They don't just destroy worlds. They convert all matter and energy into quantum-entangled states that they can absorb." "Impossible," declared a Mechronet representative, their cybernetic systems whirring in agitation. "Such a life form would violate fundamental laws of physics." Alina's smile held no humor. "The laws of physics as you understand them. We've spent 5 years studying them, mapping their behavior patterns. They're intelligent, coordinated, and they've been moving between galaxies for possibly millions of years. Your worlds were targeted first because they had the highest energy signatures, like bright lights attracting moths. And you knew." Zixtal's voice carried both accusation and dawning horror. "You knew all this time. We tried to warn you." Admiral Sarah Chen stepped forward, her uniform bearing the subtle insignias of Earth's Defense Force. "But you were too convinced of your own superiority to listen, so we prepared on our own." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of protests and demands. Sarah raised her hand for silence, and to their own surprise, the collective representatives found themselves obeying. "We're not here to assign blame," she continued. "We're here because in approximately 72 hours, the quantum predators will reach the Arcturus sector. After that, Earth's space will be next. We're offering our help, but this time, You need to listen. Elena activated a new holographic display, showing the Sol system. Hidden defense platforms shimmered into view, forming complex geometric patterns. We've developed technology that can detect and potentially disrupt their quantum state, but we'll need the collective's help to implement it on a large enough scale. What kind of help? Asked a Voraxian admiral, their tentacles twisting with interest. Your ships, Sarah answered. We need your fleet, not to fight. Your weapons would be useless, but we've developed a system that can turn your ships into nodes in a quantum disruption network. We can essentially create a space-time barrier that will force the predators to remain in a single quantum state long enough to be vulnerable. The display showed a simulation of the defense system, a web of quantum fields that could trap and isolate sections of space-time. It was elegant in its complexity, combining the raw power of collective technology with human theoretical innovation. You developed all this in just 5 years? Zixtal asked, their tone somewhere between disbelief and admiration. We had motivation, Elena replied. And we didn't waste time trying to build bigger guns. We knew we couldn't match their power, so we looked for their weaknesses instead. A new alert caught everyone's attention. The quantum sensors showed increased activity. The predators were accelerating toward Arcturus. We don't have time for debate, Sarah announced. Either you trust us now, or we all face extinction separately. Your choice. The collective representatives looked at each other, centuries of rigid hierarchy and protocol warring with the immediate threat of annihilation. Finally, Zixtal spoke. The collective grants emergency powers to Earth's defense force. They declared, their crystalline form brightening slightly. All remaining ships are at your disposal, Admiral Chen. Good, Sarah nodded. Because we're going to need every ship we can get. Dr. Santos, show them the deployment strategy. Elena brought up a new tactical display. The key is synchronization. We'll need to position ships at these precise coordinates, creating a quantum interference pattern that matches the predator's own frequency. Get it wrong, and we'll just give them more energy to consume. Get it right, and we can trap them, finished a Mecronite scientist, their cybernetic eyes whirring as they analyzed the data. Brilliant. Primitive, but brilliant. Elena smiled. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. We'll need to modify your ship's power systems. I hope your engineers are ready for a crash course in quantum mechanics. As the chamber erupted into organized chaos, with technical teams beginning their work, Sarah pulled Elena aside. Will it be enough? She asked quietly. Elena watched the quantum signatures of the approaching predators, their movement now clear enough to see distinct patterns. It has to be. But there's something else. Look at these energy fluctuations. They're not just hunting blindly anymore. They're adapting, learning. Whatever happens at Arcturus, that's just the beginning. Sarah nodded grimly. Then we better make sure we win this first round decisively. Humanity didn't come this far to become quantum food. Above them, the combined fleet of Earth and the collective began to move into position, preparing for humanity's first test against an enemy that had evolved beyond the conventional laws of physics. The next 72 hours would determine whether their preparation had been enough, or if the galaxy was about to witness the start of its own extinction. The Arcturus system blazed with the combined light of thousands of ships. The remnants of the collective's once mighty fleet hung in precise geometric patterns, their positions calculated down to the quantum level. At the center of this vast formation, the ESS Hawking served as the command center, its quantum sensors tracking the approaching predators. Final system check, Elena announced, her voice carrying across the merged communications network. All ships, confirm quantum field synchronization. One by one, the ships reported in. Each vessel had been modified according to Elena's specifications, their power cores adjusted to generate specific quantum interference patterns. The entire fleet had become one vast quantum trap, ready to spring shut. Multiple quantum signatures detected, the Hawking's ad reported, approaching at superluminal velocities. Sarah stood at the command center, watching the tactical displays. All ships, maintain position. Remember your training. Do not, under any circumstances, deviate from your assigned coordinates unless given direct orders. The first visual manifestation of the quantum predators emerged like a tear in reality itself. They were beautiful in their horror, vast, shifting forms that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Where normal space-time touched their surfaces, reality itself appeared to warp and distort. "By the void," whispered a collective captain. "How did we never see them coming?" "Because you were looking for things you understood," Elena replied, her fingers dancing across control interfaces. Initiating quantum field generation in 3, 2, 1. The fleet came alive with energy. Each ship generated its own quantum field, precisely calibrated to interact with its neighbors. The fields merged and grew, forming a vast web of quantum interference patterns that began to alter the very fabric of space-time around the Arcturus system. The predators noticed immediately. Their forms writhed and shifted, trying to maintain their quantum superposition state. But the human-designed trap was already closing. "They're trying to phase shift," Elena reported. "Compensating. All ships in Sector 7 increase field strength by 12%. The battle that followed defied conventional description. There were no weapons fired, no explosions or dramatic displays of force. Instead, it was a silent war of physics itself, humanity's understanding of quantum mechanics against beings that had evolved to exist outside normal spacetime. "Look at their pattern changes," Elena said suddenly, pointing to new data streams. "They're not just trying to escape, they're attempting to communicate." Sarah frowned. "With each other?" "No, with us. These quantum fluctuations, they're organized, regular, like they're trying to." She was cut off as one of the predators suddenly surged forward, its form condensing into something almost solid. The quantum trap held, but the being's partial manifestation in normal space revealed something unexpected. "It's mathematics," Elena breathed, staring at the patterns emerging in the quantum field. "They're trying to show us equations, universal constants. They're trying to talk." But before anyone could process this revelation, another predator attacked the quantum net, its assault far more violent than before. The combined fleet shuddered as reality itself seemed to buckle. "Field integrity at 60%, a Mecronite officer reported. "We can't maintain the containment." Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. "Dr. Santos, options." Elena's mind raced through calculations. "They're not just predators," she said quickly. "They're intelligent, possibly as old as the universe itself. But they've never encountered anything that could trap them before. We need to." Another assault rocked the fleet. 3 collective ships vanished instantly, converted to pure quantum energy. The patterns in the quantum field became more erratic, more desperate. "All ships, emergency protocol Omega," Sarah commanded. "Dr. Santos, whatever you're thinking, do it now." Elena's hands flew across the controls, modifying the quantum field frequency. "If they want to talk, let's give them a channel that won't tear reality apart." The quantum trap began to pulse in a new pattern, not trying to contain the predators anymore, but resonating with their own quantum signatures. The violent attempts to break free ceased almost immediately. "They're responding," Elena reported, wonder in her voice. "The patterns, they're matching our frequency, establishing a quantum dialogue." The next few minutes stretched into an eternity as humanity achieved something the collective had never managed in 10,000 years. First contact with a truly alien intelligence. Through the quantum field network, mathematical concepts flowed back and forth, gradually building a framework for communication. "They're not invading," Elena announced finally, her voice filled with amazement. "They're running. There's something out there in the space between galaxies, something that hunts them. They'd been searching for a species advanced enough to understand them, to help them hide." Sarah absorbed this information, years of military training warring with scientific curiosity. "Can we trust them?" They could have destroyed this entire sector if they wanted to, Alina pointed out. Instead, they'd been trying to communicate since we first trapped them. They just didn't know how to do it without destroying us in the process. The quantum field continued to pulse with mathematical exchanges. The predator's forms became more stable, adapting to the frequency humans had provided. Send word to Earth, Sarah ordered. Tell them we're going to need a bigger quantum network. And tell the collective representatives to prepare for some very interesting discussions about the nature of reality. Above Arcturus, humanity's greatest gamble had paid off, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the distinctly human traits of innovation, adaptability, and the willingness to attempt communication even in the face of apparent hostility. 1 year after the Arcturus encounter, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The great chamber of the new Galactic Council bore little resemblance to its predecessor. Where once the collective's representatives had sat in rigid hierarchical arrangements, now 3 distinct groups formed an equal triangle: the Reformed Collective, the Earth Alliance, and most remarkably, the Quantum Collective, the diplomatic name given to the beings once feared as predators. Dr. Alina Santos stood at the center of this triangle, presenting the latest findings from Project Bridge, humanity's ambitious attempt to merge conventional and quantum-based technologies. Behind her, holographic displays showed the massive quantum communication network now spanning significant portions of the galaxy. The integration of quantum collective knowledge with human theoretical frameworks has exceeded our most optimistic projections, she reported. We've already established stable quantum corridors across 50 light-years, allowing instantaneous travel and communication. But more importantly, we've confirmed their warnings about what lies in the void between galaxies. The displays shifted to show deep space readings that would have been impossible a year ago. In the darkness between star systems, massive distortions in spacetime moved with clear purpose, entities that made the quantum collective seem small in comparison. The Void Hunters, Alina continued, using the term that had emerged from their quantum mathematical exchanges with their new allies. They'd been pursuing the quantum collective across multiple galaxies for millions of years. And now, thanks to our combined technologies, we can finally see them coming. Admiral Sarah Chen stepped forward. The good news is that our quantum barrier technology, combined with the quantum collective's knowledge of higher dimensional physics, gives us a fighting chance. The bad news is that we have less than 5 years before the first Void Hunters reach our galaxy. High Counselor Zixtal, their crystalline form now shimmering with newfound humility, spoke up. The collective offers all its remaining resources to this cause. We have learned the price of pride and complacency. As have we all, came the quantum-translated response from the quantum collective's representative, their multidimensional form now stable enough to maintain a constant presence in normal spacetime. For eons, we fled across the cosmos, never imagining that beings of conventional matter could help us stand and fight. Sarah nodded. Which is why we're proposing Project Bastion. The holographic display shifted to show a massive engineering undertaking, a galaxy-wide quantum defense network, combining collective manufacturing capabilities, quantum collective dimensional physics, and human theoretical innovation. The scope of the project was staggering. Thousands of quantum barrier generators would be positioned throughout the galaxy, creating overlapping fields that could trap and isolate Void Hunters. The technology that had captured the quantum collective at Arcturus would be scaled up to defend an entire galaxy. We'll need everyone, Alina emphasized. The collective's industrial capacity, the quantum collective's understanding of higher dimensional physics, and humanity's ability to think beyond conventional solutions. No single species could do this alone. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The quantum mathematics flowing through the shared communication network carried the weight of billions of lives, organic, mechanical, and quantum, all now bound together by necessity and growing trust. There is something else, the quantum collective's representative added, their quantum signatures pulsing with what Alina had learned to recognize as enthusiasm. Our preliminary tests with human quantum theory have revealed something unexpected. The Void Hunters may be larger, but they are not more complex. Their pursuit has forced us to evolve, to become more sophisticated. Together with humanity's unique perspective and the collective's resources, we might not just survive, we might pioneer an entirely new form of civilization. Admiral Chen smiled. 5 years ago, we were considered too primitive to join the collective. Now we're talking about reshaping the fundamental forces of the universe. Funny how things work out. Not funny, Zixtal corrected, their crystalline surface shimmering with multiple colors, a sign of strong emotion. Humbling. We thought we were teaching you, but you taught us the most important lesson of all. True advancement comes not from accumulated knowledge, but from the willingness to question, adapt, and imagine. The quantum network hummed with mathematical equations as the three powers began working out the details of Project Bastion. In the space above the chamber, ships of all three civilizations moved in careful formation. Collective vessels gleaming with advanced technology, quantum ships shifting between dimensions, and human craft displaying their characteristic blend of innovation and pragmatism. Alina watched the proceedings with a sense of pride and wonder. Humanity had not only survived its trial by fire, but had emerged as a crucial bridge between conventional and quantum life forms. Their primitive question-everything approach had transformed them from galactic newcomers to essential partners in the galaxy's future, ready for another 5 years of impossible problems. Sarah asked her old friend. Alina's eyes sparkled with the same curiosity that had first detected the quantum disturbances 6 years ago. Always. After all, solving impossible problems is what humanity does best. Above them, the quantum network pulsed with the combined knowledge and determination of three civilizations, preparing for a battle that would determine not just their survival, but the very future of life in their galaxy. The universe, it seemed, had much left to teach them all, and humanity was ready to learn.